to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madman. Glad to have you with us. Before I get to the group, I do want to mention this development that took place in baseball earlier today. Former Detroit Tigers pitcher Mickey Lolich passed away at the age of 85 years of age. Mickey Lolich, a World Series hero in 1968, through 3 complete games and beat Bob Gibson as the underdog Tigers defeated St. Louis Cardinals. I had an opportunity to interview Mickey Lolich here on the Sports Exchange. It was unbelievable, and my friend Tom Gage set the whole thing up. I have a few of Mickey's books that he signed over to me. I had a chance to spend time with him over at his winter home in Naples, Florida, and Mickey was great. He was my childhood idol, and when the news broke today, he passed away at 85. To say the least, I was thinking and reminiscing myself. I'm glad I had a chance to meet my childhood idol one time and talked to him on the phone a couple times leading up to the show about his books. And now I'm forever grateful that my buddy Tom Gage, who's a Hall of Fame writer in the Baseball Hall of Fame, made it happen. Tommy and I have been friends for years, and he asked me if I wanted to do this for a show. So yeah, by all means, if you can pull it off, it's just Scotty, I'll pull anything off for you. And he did, and it worked out well. So Tommy, I'm sure you can appreciate Mickey Lolich. You were in Michigan for a period of time when Mickey was doing this thing.
Yeah, he is the only player to win 3 complete games in the World Series. There's been a couple of guys that have won 3 games, but not complete games. And he's 5th all time among left-handed strikeouts. I think he had 215 wins. Makes you wonder why
but that's close enough.
You don't hear more about him in the Hall of Fame when you look at his accomplishments. I mean, nobody's had a World Series like him. He won over 200 games. He's right up there with the best left-handed strikeout guys. I think the other thing I read today was he only missed 1 start his entire career for an injury.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, rest in peace, Mickey. Go ahead.
Compare that to modern baseball.
Yeah, right. Tell me about it. I miss it badly. Tony, something you want to add, buddy?
Oh no, I learned all my knowledge of Mickey today, looking him up, but looked like he was a phenomenal player. Like I say, they're all talking about the 3 games in the World Series, Game 7, only giving up 1 run. Let's not mention him playing for the Mets for 1 season. They can leave that out. No, I'm joking. But rest in peace.
Yeah,
nice long life.
76. Yeah, one of my most interesting memories was when I was invited to his house. I didn't see that he had his patio door closed. So as I was going to their back porch, I collided into it and fell and hit my head on the back. And Mrs. Lolich said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't quite see the door shut." And Mickey laughed. I said, "You all right, kid?" "Yeah, I'm all right." And said, "Yeah, I just didn't see it." And we just got a chuckle out of it. Again, when you're a klutz like I am, people generally get a klutz off of what I am when I make those kind of mistakes. But no, we signed a few books and a few other things, and we just talked, and it was just unbelievable. And it's too bad that it all came to an end today. And so rest in peace, Mickey, and thanks Tommy Gage, and condolences to his wife Joyce and his kids. Yes, Marvin.
Scott, I'll tell you what, man. The thing that sticks out, of all the things you said, what sticks out, you said complete games. I think that goes over a lot of people's heads. Yeah. I think today, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but I feel like for a starting pitcher, completing the game isn't like the goal anymore. That's not like what's expected anymore, and that really has changed in baseball. That's just, to me, significant, But for him to be dominant in the World Series, throwing complete games, that's a big deal, And I think you said it quickly, but that's something that we have to stop and think about when you consider, you figure today with sports science, these guys can do it. Those dudes was, drinking Budweiser as after practices. What I'm saying? This wasn't, anything sophisticated. To be honest, it wasn't. So it just tells you, just how tough these guys were and just the different mentality of man in sport back in the day.
That's what also made Mickey low.
Hello.
He was a beer drinker, had a beer drinker belly.
Exactly. I didn't even know that, but I knew that was kind of how they rolled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
but he could throw the ball a million times. And,
yeah, well, you don't think about it. That's for sure. Well, you know, he ended up doing after his baseball career, he owned a donut shop in Metro Detroit,
right.
out in that's what he ended up doing. He owned a donut shop up in the suburbs, and so he traded the beer for the donuts. Anything else you want to add, Canty, before we get to the agenda?
Hey, back in those days, you'd miss guys.
Probably not. We got her off guard there.
Back in those days, guys would miss a couple of weeks doing National Guard duty, and that was Mickey Lolich. Even during the Detroit riots of 1967.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, whether it's I'm sorry, we're talking over. Yeah, whether it's going to the National Guard or whether it's going to the Army, whatnot, that's true. Hey, Nexus 12, glad to have you on. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We're glad you're putting in some good stuff in there. We have a great show lined up for you. First time I've seen you. I hope certainly get to see you many more times. Yeah, they used to go off, do things to the National Guard, Army, whatever, and that's what we have. Well, let's go. Let's talk a little bit of basketball before we get to some of the other stuff. Bill Laimbeer actually believes that LeBron James would be the best if he played in the 1980s. Marvin, what do you think about Bill Laimbeer and LeBron James if he played in the 80s?
Yeah, listen, I'm a LeBron guy. Okay, I'm a LeBron guy, and I believe that his style of play is one that would be successful in any era because LeBron James can give it to you all. You know, he can give you whatever he needs. People talk about how he'd have to go in the paint and be physical. If you look at every single championship he's won, it came down to the end, and it came down to LeBron going to the hole in the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? In closeout games, I mean, he goes to the hole when he needs to, when he has to. He's big, he's strong. I think he's much more aggressive than people give him credit for, and I respect that. I do, especially with this LeBron and Jordan debate and how people say LeBron's a crybaby, the flop, and all that stuff. And I think that's all crazy. I think all that stuff is nothing compared to his accomplishments, the thing that he's done. I mean, the fact that in a sport where numbers matter, he's the all-time leading scorer. What are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like he's going to be in the top 10, top 5 of every record, if not having the record when he retires. I mean, he's been dominant on defense in big moments, on the big stage, assist, taking it to the hole, hitting the three. I mean, he is the ultimate player. And, I agree with Bill Laimbeer 100%. And I'm happy to see an old school guy give this guy his props because Bill was a dog out there. So that means a lot to me.
Don't I know? I can tell you stories about Laimbeer. Everybody gets done with their thoughts, and a lot of them aren't very good either. And when you're dealing with a media and you're dealing with a guy like him, he's a bear. That's why he never got a head coaching job, because of his personality. I'll tell you what my thoughts are on this after I go around the horn. Candy, do you think LeBron would have done well in the 80s?
I struggle a little bit with that. I think out of most of the people in the league now, LeBron is the least one that would have problems playing in that. I think the Steph Currys would have problems playing in that era. I think a lot of these other guys would have problems playing in that era. LeBron, I don't think would have problems. I don't know that he would have had the same success that he has now, but he could definitely play in that era. It was a more physical era. What, right. Scott?
What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, I definitely think that he could have played in any era. Hello?
No, go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Did I interrupt you, Candy? Was there one thing?
Nope, we're good.
Yeah, he can definitely play in any era.
Okay, Tom, sorry.
Great skills, physical player, and he might have even been better back in those days because the physical contact wouldn't have limited his game. The other thing I always remember about him is when he was still in high school, he was on a game, ESPN broadcast one of his games, and Bill Walton said, "This guy's for real," after just sometime in the first half, and that was enough for me. And you think about a lot of these high school phenoms that were supposed to be guaranteed players, and most of them didn't pan out. You think of the sad story about Imani Bates, who was from Ypsilanti, Michigan, and he had signed with Michigan or committed to Michigan State, and then his dad got involved and money. I shouldn't say boosters. I should say endorsement money got involved, and he didn't finish. He didn't go to Michigan State. I think he went to Memphis, and he went to Eastern Michigan, and he's never been anybody. So that's another thing about LeBron James is he was had such high expectations on him, and he still thrived throughout his career. All these years, he's always done the mental part of his game, the physical part of his game, his diet. He's always been a smart guy too, talking about social issues.
Tony.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. LeBron is somebody you can put him in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever, and he'll be able to fit. You got to think, man, this guy is the same size as Karl Malone. So he can deal with the physicality, but he was quicker than as fast as, any NBA player at the time, So with that size, that speed, the physicality, it's just the evolution of sports, right? He can just naturally go anywhere. I do think the physicality might have shortened his career. You're not playing 22 years when they was fouling and able to hack the way that they were back in the day. But I think he still would be a great player. His style may have been different because the way the game was played, he'd probably just be a strict power forward, more like a Karl Malone type. But players like that, they're just great no matter where you put them.
All right, here's where I stand with this whole thing. By the way, Nathaniel Larme, what are y'all doing? We're talking sports. Glad you're in here with us. And Nexus 12, glad you're in here with us as well. Try to acknowledge you as much. We appreciate the participation. Here's where my thoughts are on this. Number one, he would have success in that area, and I emphasize the word success. I watched that era of basketball. I sat at courtside. He struggles with physicality of the Charles Oakleys, the Karl Malones, the Rick Mahorns, and Bill Laimbeer, who's speaking himself. And I don't think his career goes more than 14, 15 years compared to the 22. And he doesn't have the all-time scoring record. That league simply beat you up at Ed every single time. And he doesn't amass records, and he'd be lucky to have one championship. I mean, and Jordan, to me, is way better than LeBron in a million years. So I give him success, but I say he's a bona fide superstar, but to me, I say it's very limited. I'm not unanimous with what everybody's thinking here. I think he has success, but not as much. That's why I wanted to bring it out. I'm glad we got the different opinions on this one as well. So, more power to him. I mean, he's at 6'11". He has unbelievable physical skills, extremely talented player, but the physicality of the NBA, Marvin, I'm telling you guys, and I watch it. I'm sitting at the court every single day watching these guys beat the daylights out of each other in the paint. It was unbelievable. You get anywhere near the paint, you're going to have a body on you. It's just all there is to it. Now it's like patty cake, baker's man when you watch a game. And I'll tell you, it's called snooze ball when you watch it these days. Then it was called bruise ball.
Scott, man, if you look at any LeBron James game where it's the closeout game for the championship in the playoffs, this dude plays down low and he is a bully. He is a bully. And it bothers fans who are like, why don't you do that, all the time? Why isn't that your game, period? I'm telling you, this dude is a bully, and you really are underestimating his level of physicality. He looks the part and he plays the part. This isn't look like Tarzan, play like Jane. When it's time to get, go hard in the paint and get gritty, he's right there with the best of them, Scott. I'm telling you.
Well, I'm telling you, I watched it. I watched that era, and with my own. Back then, I didn't have glasses. It was only 2 eyes then. I only had 2. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a great player. That's not downplay. But I watched it, man. That was like a boxing match. That's called combat sports. Get your man right shoulder. That's what the 80s was combat sports back then, man. This was a man's game. Now what does he have? He has a kids game where he's standing up amongst all of this.
In the 80s, you can get into a fist fight on the court and not get kicked out. You know what I'm saying? So I get you on that, because that's the realities. Dudes out there were throwing punches and they weren't being kicked out the game. So that tells you right then and there the culture was different. I think LeBron has made it at though. I think he's made it at stuff. I do.
Well, keep talking because you're making my points for me. The longer you talk, the more you're going to make my points because I'm the coach and you're the student. Don't forget that when it comes to this stuff, even though you're a way better athlete than I am. All right. Yeah. But all right, but it's a good spirited debate anyhow. And we got to make sure Tommy gets some of his main hay before he has to go to sleep here. But let's talk about Dwight Howard. He was elected as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know, Marvin, was he a first ballot Hall of Famer, Dwight Howard?
Dwight Howard, Orlando Magic, Dwight Howard. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. This dude in his prime, he was one of the most dominant big men in the game. All defensive player of the year, multiple all defensive teams, all-star. I mean, this dude in his prime, before he went left, he was as good as it got. And he lived up to a lot of the hype coming out of high school. I think he was a kid who came straight out of high school. And I know he was, big. He came in big on the Lord. And, the NBA life is real. It's real. It's tough. And I think he's one of the guys who were impacted a little bit by the nightlife. But, he absolutely is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I remember him when he was dominant, when he was elite, when he was a big name. It wasn't based on hype. It was based on his performance in the paint and on defense and how he guarded big men and just his ability to score at times. So, yeah, definitely worthy.
Where are you going next, guys?
Okay, Candy, go ahead. Convince me that he's a first. Convince me that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Howard played the center position. He chose to forgo his college and entered the 2004 NBA draft, was selected first overall by the Orlando Magic. He set numerous franchise and league records with the Magic and led the team to the 2009 NBA Finals. In 2012, after 8 seasons with Orlando, he was traded to the Lakers, whom he spent 3 separate one-year stints and won an NBA championship in 2020. He's also played for the Houston Rockets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets, Washington Wizards, and Philadelphia 76ers. He played overseas as well. He is an 8-time NBA All-Star. I had this just a minute ago. He has 19,485 points. He has 14,627 rebounds. Now that number is just crazy. Right. I mean, 5,000 less points or 5,000 more points than he does rebounds. Like for every rebound, it's one. Whereas points, it could be a 2-point shot, a 3-point shot, if you think about it. And he has 2,228 blocks. He was dominant as a center back in the day. He's a first-time Hall.
Okay, I was struggling. I was struggling with the points, but when you give me the rebounding numbers and then you start giving me the blocks numbers, you might have won me over with those. All right, go ahead, Tommy.
Well, yeah, he was a dominant player for a decade with big numbers. I don't have any problem with him making the Hall of Fame. The other thing about him is he was on he has an Olympic gold medal from Beijing in 2008, and there were a lot of Hall of Famers on that team. So just making the Olympic team almost makes you a Hall of Famer credentials.
Okay. Tony?
Yeah. First of all, the NBA Hall of Fame is maybe the easiest Hall of Fame to get into in the 4 major professional sports. So that's definitely going to get him in first ballot. And he went 3 straight years between 2009 and 2011 of Defensive Player of the Year. That is dominance. The back kind of derailed him on the back end of the Magic. And I think the way that he left the Lakers that first year just put a sour taste in a lot of teams' mouth. But when he was the starter, he's never, outside of his rookie year, never not averaged a double-double. Right. So I think he definitely should be. And when, like Candy said, when you bring in the blocks, the rebounds, hey man, basketball is 2 sides of the ball, right? And when it comes to defense, it's super dominant. I will say this: I do remember him getting drafted, and I thought they should have got Emeka Okafor. The Magic made the right decision. I would have been fired as a GM.
Well, feel too bad. Well, I mean, the way you look at those numbers, one guy comes to mind, and Dennis Rodman. When you can go ahead and rebound and you can go ahead and block shots, that's how you get in. And Dwight Howard certainly earned his ticket to Springfield by doing at least those. Forget about the points; are all well and good. He got a chip in his pocket, but the rebounds, I'll give you that. All right. Well, we're gonna break it up with an easy non-sports topic. Then we get some other stuff Tommy could probably relate to. Our first non-sports topic of the night comes from New York City, which has more skyscrapers than most cities, but none of them can be taller than 2,000 feet. How about that there, Marvin? You have all the skyscrapers, but they can't be more than 2,000 feet. What do you think of that, Tommy?
I can't speak to a lot of that reasoning. I don't know if 9/11 has something to do with that, but 2,000. I would have thought that most of them are over 2,000 feet, but then I don't have a great sense of these buildings right now in my mind. Yeah, that's something that I just found out, and it's good information. And I'm gonna figure out why I'm gonna look it up and figure out why it's like that. I'm not sure, Scotty.
That's okay. All right, Candy.
Yeah, pretty crazy to think that they have. I mean, obviously, we all know they have the most skyscrapers. They're one of the biggest cities, so that doesn't surprise us. What surprises me is how many that they would have, and they're all under 2,000. I don't know if it has something to do with structurally being sound. If you're up, I mean, if you're that tall, like I don't know, but yeah, something I didn't know, Scott. You got me on that one.
Well, you always say I got plenty of my bag of tricks. I had to pull that one out of my pocket. What do you think, Tommy?
Well, that exceeds the height of Empire. It exceeds by quite a bit the Empire State Building and the original World Trade Center. They were only like 1,500. So I don't find that surprising at all. One reason for that rule being put in place, though, is when the World Trade Center did get knocked down by those 2 plane attacks, Trump celebrated by saying now he has the second tallest building in New York. So it's a good way to keep Trump quiet.
That's pretty good, Tommy. I like that. Okay. All right. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah. Hey, look, I don't know if there's anything that can keep that man quiet, but Scott, I love this topic because I love being able to just use facts like this in normal conversation. My girl, she's always like, where do you find this stuff? So I appreciate that. I have no idea why it would be that way. I really don't. I didn't even know this was a thing until 2 minutes ago. But now whenever I go to New York to visit family, I'm going to hit them with this and act and see if they even knew this. Hey guys, nothing's more than 2,000 feet, because that's going to be me now. So thank you, Scott, for giving me something else to put in my Rolodex of these facts, man. That's cool though.
And you know what I'm going to do after the show? I'm going to take this screenshot. I'm going to send it to you, and all you got to do is give me a thumbs up, and you got it, so you know exactly where I found it. And after you come on the Wednesday show, you get a little bit more when you come on the Wednesday show, people. We give you more than sports. We come up with whatever I can come up with. Tommy, how close are you to retiring? Will you ever retire?
Who, me?
Tommy? Yeah.
I'm semi-retired already. The newspaper business died on me.
Good. This topic is for you. Okay, beautiful. Next non-sports topic of the night. Okay. And Iceland. Oh, let's go back to our favorite place, everybody. Has no army and is also recognized as the world's most peaceful country. the position it held since 2008, everybody. It is joined at the top of the index by Ireland, Austria, New Zealand, and Singapore. All right, Marvin, what do you think about Iceland? Oh, no, Army. Whoa,
you know, on one hand, I love that, man. I love just the culture and the mindset and just the peace, the tranquility, that they're not living with this in the world of the Kardashians and that drama. They have a different appreciation on life. So I like that. On the other hand, I also like the fact that in America, we live in America that has heavy military. And if something crazy happened, I know Trump going to set it off quick. We ain't going to worry about nothing. And people are scared of us in so many ways. And I'm good with that. And we're ready for anything. So I think I would feel a little uneasy out there. You know what I mean? Because you got people like Trump and Putin and these fools who you don't know what's dudes in North Korea. You don't know what's on their mind. You don't know what they want to take advantage of. Trump just wanted to roll up and take Greenland just because. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as long as you have rulers out there, I would need to have an army. So I'm good right here in good old US of A.
Are you trying to get Donald Trump his respect? Go ahead. Candy, you're in Iceland. I'm sure you believe this, right?
Yeah, Iceland broke free from Denmark in 1944 and left something crucial off the to-do list, creating an army. The answer to why Iceland doesn't have a military starts here. With just over 140,000 people at the time, raising a defense force was neither practical nor affordable at the time.
Okay. All right, Tommy, you said you're partially retired. You sold on Iceland, you're sticking right in North Carolina.
They're a member of NATO. So
and I knew I'd get you a smile, Tommy.
They're a member of NATO, so that's enough for protection.
They're a member of NATO, okay.
And they don't have a population, like Candy said, for an army.
Okay, fair enough. Had to throw it out. Don't worry, Tommy. We get to some of the really serious stuff. I had to throw a little non-serious before it gets interesting in a moment. What about you, Tony? Is this another one you want me to send so you can go ahead and educate your kiddies?
Hey, man, I'm definitely going to tell them that.
Or you like the New York City one better?
Yeah, I'll make sure I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of torn because I feel you, Marvin. You know what I'm saying? I need, if everybody else got a Rottweiler, I need a dog in my yard too, right? Like
exactly, right.
I need a dog in my yard too. But being part of NATO, I guess they're like, hey, if all my neighbors got dogs that'll help me, I'm good, right? So I mean, it's a give or take. It's one. I guess it's kind of like UK, right? You can't have a gun, so you don't have those gun violences. So it helps out. But I think I might need me an army. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's one of the most inspiring stories of the night, and I take off the joking cap because this one really is. But there's the Alamo Bowl, which obviously the Trojans played in. There's the radio team on that. You had the analyst was Rodney McLeod, play-by-play guy was George Sedano, and the reporter was Victoria Arlen, age 31. I'll tell you exactly why I'm bringing this young lady up, because what makes this so interesting is Arlen was diagnosed with two rare autoimmune disorders called transverse myelitis and acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. She lost her ability to speak, eat, walk, and move, and entered a vegetative state for 4 years, and now she's a motivational speaker and a former Paralympian swimmer. If this isn't one of the most inspiring stories, Marvin, you can get, this Victoria Arlen, I've seen her on the air. She's a sharp, young lady, but she's accomplished a lot going through this, Marvin.
Well, yeah, sounds like she really is somebody who can inspire anybody. It's a remarkable story. She's been through a lot. Unfortunately, listen, first thing I think of, that's the game that unfortunately my Trojans lost. So I hate to see that she didn't see us play our best football. But no, man, that's a Disney story. It is. I love inspiring stories, people who overcome, people who really, set the bar high and conquer challenges. So kudos to her. I love to hear it. And we need to hear more. I mean, I hate that she had to sit. I hate that she got sick, but we need to hear more stories like this, more stories of a comeback, more stories of people achieving, because that happens a lot more. We need more positivity out there. We ain't got to make it up because it's really there. Great story.
Autoimmune disorders. That's hard to even pronounce them. Candy, what's your take on this young lady, Victoria
Kudos
Erlin?
to her for overcoming all these obstacles and being able to do her craft. Awesome story.
Tommy?
Yeah, 4 years she was ill. Is that what you said?
Yeah. This poor young lady, she's been through the rigors if I ever saw it. Think about it. She lost her ability to speak, eat, and walk and move and entered a vegetative state for 4 years. And now this young lady's fantastic. She's moving around and she's built her career around ESPN. That's just surreal, Tom.
I'm surprised the story
really
isn't
is.
better known than it is.
That's why I'm telling you, you guys have to understand. I go out there and look for a lot of different things you're not going to find a lot of places. I really do. This is one of the things I really enjoy doing.
It's another example of the dumbing down of America. The Kardashians have a popular show for doing nothing. And this woman is an incredible story.
I'm glad you're on, Tommy. You're an incredible person. What do you like this one too, Tony?
Yeah, I love it. Hey, man, I'm all for positivity. If you watch the first 5 minutes of the news, it's all terrible. It'll take you into a depressed state. And this is the kind of stuff that should be highlighted. So I'm glad that you actually look and find this stuff, Scott. So somebody else can hear this positivity and it can be more amplified. Like, I feel like, Marvin, it's funny you said that because while you were talking, Scott, that's what I'm thinking. Where's Disney? Like, this needs to be a movie somewhere. Paramount. Hey, Tubi, somebody holler at these people, man. This would be a great story to tell. I can see why she's a motivational speaker because she's coming from literally not being able to do anything to now thriving in sports and sports media. So, hey, if you're feeling lazy, there's somebody who you probably should listen to get up and go make some moves and do some things.
Yeah, every time I watch this young lady on the air, she just ceases to amaze me when she gets an opportunity to work in the field or whatever roles they have her do on a given day. And then I look at her history when she's been sick, all as long as she's been. For anybody that thinks they have it bad, this young lady had it really bad. And look where she's at now. She's an inspiration to a lot of people. All right, Scott, well, I'll tell you one thing. Another great story. Go ahead,
Can I just say, Victoria has become world famous not only for her story and accomplishments, but for her message. Face it, embrace it, defy it, conquer it. I like that.
There you go. Words of wisdom. Victoria Erlin, you're the star of this show, and I'll put you in the classification of Bette Midler. And this is really serious here. Did you ever know you're my hero? Yes, you are, Victoria Erlin. You're our hero tonight on tonight's edition of the Sports Exchange. Yeah, I don't tear up for this stuff. I can certainly think of it on the fly as my voice gets stronger from the beating it took last week at the Senior Bowl, named kindly after myself. Okay, and maybe Tommy, I'm just kidding. All right, well, I'll tell you what, our featured topic of the night, the Detroit Pistons continue to roll, and they're definitely doing that. When you look at the Pistons, the days in first place, they've had more days in first place this season than they did over the last 18 seasons combined. Marvin, this is a story of the year with what JB Bickerstaff has done.
Listen, as a Jet fan, it gives me hope to hear those kind of numbers. To hear that maybe one day, maybe one day the Jets will be in that position. It's awesome, man. Listen, I know Detroit basketball has been up and down, man. From the bad boys, before the bad boys, after them, they've been dominant or they've been trash. And it's good to see Detroit back on top. It's a great sports town, proud basketball team. Cade Cunningham got new faces in the league. That's a good thing. And I don't get turned on to basketball till football ends. So we got a couple of days here till I go really hardcore NBA, hardcore college. But I'm aware of the Pistons and their dominance, and I'm loving it. I like to see those small towns. I like to see the mid-major cities successful.
Candy.
You know, a couple years ago, we were talking about Detroit for the opposite reason. The Pistons were horrible. Then they went out and they got Cade Cunningham, and he's really turned that franchise around. Kudos to them. I kind of hate saying that because obviously I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan, but you always want competition to be good against you though too. So, and in all fairness, I know Scott, you're a Pistons person, so I guess sometimes we, we cheer for each other. Let's put it that way.
Good way of putting it. Well, think about Tommy, though. One of the guys who's in charge of that front office, one you're all too familiar with being in ACC country, is Trajan Langdon. He's the guy calling the shots over there because he obviously is. Everybody knows what he did with Duke and what he's doing in New Orleans. But tell me a little bit about Trajan Langdon. In effect, Tommy, you being an ACC guy, he's a smart player. I didn't even what he's doing to make the.
I didn't even know he'd gotten into management until a few years ago when the Pistons started to improve, and I read about him. He was always a quiet guy as a player. He didn't say much, but he's obviously very studious. I know Coach K said when he played that he was always took care of business. You didn't have to worry about him getting his workouts in and that type of thing. So he's always been a serious-minded guy. And then B.J. Bickerstaff is the son of Bernie Bickerstaff, who was one of the first black coaches in college basketball in San Diego back in the 70s. So they've got a sharp front office there, and then it all started with drafting Cade Cunningham and building around him.
I mean, JB Bickerstaff's going to be the coach over with the NBA All-Stars coming up. So what a whale of a year. I think that they went out there and let Monty Williams go, give him a boatload of money to stay home. And Tom Gores, I would have spent money on JB Bickerstaff. How that worked out, turned the franchise around. And while Tony's turning his head, you can go ahead and add a little voice to that bobblehead of his there. Go ahead, Tony, my man.
As a Carolina fan, hearing the name Trajan Langdon just gave me chills because, oh my God, the Alaskan assassin is just, I'm sorry. Cold sweats are happening. But Detroit, man, Detroit basketball, they're balling out. Cade Cunningham. It's crazy to think that it was kind of a debate. Should he go number one or Jalen Green? And it's not even close. JB Bickerstaff did a good job in Cleveland. I don't know why they fired him. I mean, I guess they feel like they upgraded, but look at how the tables have turned. One team is in first place. One is in that 6-7 spot, trading for James Harden, the agent James Harden. The interesting thing with Detroit is they made some small moves this week to get shooting, but they have enough to make a big move. Cover your ears, Candy, because they are in the Giannis talks. So I do wonder if they're really going to go big game hunting by the trade deadline, or if they're going to look and say, hey, we're in first place. Why ruin what we got going on here? So that's going to this next, 20 hours or so. I want to see what they do.
Hey, Hyphen Maniac friends, can I get help here? What kind of help you need? We got it all for you. Stay tuned. Glad to have you on through YouTube. Can I get help here? What do you need? What kind of help? We have all kinds of people from different backgrounds. It is encouraging to see the job they've done. I've had a chance to cover the Pistons and the Bad Boys. I have a plaque on the floor. So, all right, we'll go to Curt Cignetti. When he talked about the national title game versus Miami, he thought the 8.5-point spread is a setup, 78% of the money on Indiana to win by 9 or more points. I don't know. They didn't win by that many, Marvin. I don't know about betting, but Curt Cignetti downplayed it.
Yeah, I mean he has to. That's his. That I mean, you want your kids focused, and you want to try to find some kind of edge, some kind of leverage, And it's so much easier to go into those games as the underdog. So when you're the favorite and you're a favorite by over 8.5 points, that's a lot of points in a national championship game for a team who's playing at home in Miami, who's known to have good defense. That's disrespectful. That's Vegas saying, listen, no matter what, Indiana's going to win this game, which they did. Miami played them tough, man. Miami played them tough. They did not lay down. They responded. I don't, even though Miami played great on defense and got after the quarterback, I still think Indiana really had the edge the entire game. But yeah, Curt needs to find a way to make his kids feel like, they're the small man. They're David and David and Goliath. That's his job. So yeah, all that stuff is just rat poison, as Nick Saban would used to say. And Curt Cignetti is a Nick Saban disciple. So yeah, he knows how to make them feel humble, and that's a good thing.
Candy.
Curt Cignetti turned that program around like nobody else. Probably the biggest coaching of his career and coaching that we've seen turn around. He knows how to coach. He knows what motivates them. So he knew what to say. That's what a good coach does. A good coach can motivate your team and knows how to elevate their play. Because, yes, they went into, let's all face it, enemy territory because the Canes played at home. They had some top defensive players. Indiana, we've all talked about it. Indiana didn't have the 4-star recruits. They didn't have some of the other things that Miami had. But what did Indiana have? They have Curt Cignetti. And he knew how to coach his team every single week to get the best out of them and to get the best outcome out of them. They blew how many other teams out of the water. Miami hung tough. They just didn't. They needed about, I don't know, how many more minutes? Indiana and Curt Cignetti did an awesome job. Take Tom.
Yeah, that 8.5 point. That I'll tell you what, that 8.5 point spread was good for everybody but the Miami Hurricanes. Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, they had routed Alabama and they didn't rout Oklahoma. They came. I'm mixing up Alabama and Oklahoma. They routed Alabama. They routed Oregon, and so that probably added to the 8.5 point prediction. Sometimes the Vegas bookies have to lure you into voting one way or the other. But the thing about those Cignetti teams is the players were always where they were supposed to be. They didn't have to rely on one or two players. There was always a bunch of guys making plays, and they were so disciplined. I always remember that scene where Miami came out and on a 4th and short and lined up, and it turned out they were just hoping to draw Indiana offsides with a penalty, and the camera showed Cignetti just kind of laughing, not laughing, but smiling. You think you're going to pull off get us to jump off sides on 4th down? His team was too composed for that. So Cignetti he pushed all the right buttons the entire season.
Sure did. Tony?
Yeah, look, the first 2 rounds warranted an 8.5 point favorite. Like you said, the way they steamrolled Alabama, even though this isn't Nick Saban's Alabama, and the way they did Oregon, Lord have mercy. Oregon ain't even show up. But that's the second time they have beat Oregon, right? So I get it. But come on, man, it's a championship game. I wouldn't even want to see an 8-point national championship game, right? And the Hurricanes showed up, and that was the difference. The Hurricanes throughout the season and playing at home, I'm sure that amplified them even more. It was the small mistakes that Indiana did not make. And that's why the Hurricanes was always playing catch up, and they can never catch up because Indiana just did not make any mistakes for you to for them to fall back into where Miami can catch them. And it's going to be interesting to see because Cignetti's not going anywhere. And coaches like that, they don't just win one championship. They build. Even if they don't win the national championship next year, they'll probably be in contention again. So it's going to be a good run for the Hoosiers for sure.
All right, that's topics only for Tommy only because he wasn't on last night's Inside the Picture. And then we'll have one topic that we can all talk about. And those will be your 2 for the night, Tommy, and respectful to your time situation, okay? And that being this, Curt Cignetti wins the Bear Bryant Award as Coach of the Year. All right, Tommy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award is sponsored by a Houston medical center. I forget which one. So they're the money behind it. But Bear Bryant, as a Coach of the Year award, he shouldn't be. Curt Cignetti deserved to be Coach of the Year, but Bear Bryant, a Coach of the Year award, is not anything to be proud of. This guy was a segregationist coach from 1945 at Maryland through 1946 to 57 at Texas A&M, and then for his first 13 years at Alabama, 7 years after the campus desegregated. If Houston wanted to name a Coach of the Year award after an honorable person, this is how short-sighted they were and suckered by this myth about Bear Bryant as a grandfatherly figure that cared about kids. He didn't care about black kids. Bill Yeoman is a college football Hall of Fame coach at the University of Houston. They have a statue of him. He desegregated Houston's program in 1964. Houston, when he took over, Houston was much more than a junior college program. They became so strong, the Southwest Conference admitted them, and they were winning Southwest Conference titles over Texas and Texas A&M. What a great example Bill Yeoman would be for the Houston Medical Center to sponsor a Coach of the Year award. And another name in Texas is Hayden Fry. He took the SMU job in 1965 under the condition he could recruit black players. He signed Jerry Levias in 1965. And he was the first black scholarship player in the Southwest Conference. That's a more admirable person if you're a state of Texas Houston Medical Center than Bear Bryant. Bear Bryant, people don't understand this about Bear Bryant. And this relates, all this is written about in my book, The Right Thing to Do. In 1940, back then, in those days, there was a gentleman's agreement that if a northern team played in the South, they would bench their black players. Remember, they only had one or two back in those days. Nobody had a lot. It wasn't until Duffy Doherty came along and ignored those quota limitations. But in 1946, Michigan State played at Kentucky. Their coach was a guy named Charlie Bachman, who didn't really care about integration either. And he benched Horace King, a black kid from, is it Jackson? Yeah, he's from Jackson, Michigan, Tony Dungy's hometown. And then Bachman, he was fired after the year. Biggie Munn came in 1947. Duffy Doherty was his top assistant. This time, Kentucky has to travel to Michigan State. And Kentucky expected Michigan State to honor with Bear Bryant, the coach. Bear Bryant was the coach in 46 and 47. Kentucky expected Michigan State to sit their black player, Horace King, and they had one other. And Biggie Munn played Horace King. And when Bear Bryant saw Horace King warming up in uniform, he had his team stand on the sideline for 10 minutes before they kicked off. Why don't you know that story? Because the sports media didn't write about race back in those days. And then in 65, Bear Bryant said that he may not be the first Southeastern Conference coach to sign a black player, but he won't be the third. Yeah, he was the seventh. That's how dedicated he was to social injustice. And then in 1967, he was asked why he didn't have any black players on his team when he cut 5 black kids who tried to make the team as walk-on candidates in spring football. Remember, the campus is desegregated, so these 5 guys came out for the team. Bear Bryant cut every one of them. And then on TV, it's on film, he was asked when he was going to have a black player, and he said, I can't find any that are academically and athletically qualified to play for me. This is 1967. In 1980, Time Magazine did this lengthy 5,000-word feature on him. 5,000 words is like a chapter in a book. And about as his career was winding down. The story did not mention a single word about Bryant transforming sports with the 1970 USC Alabama game. Why? Because that myth wasn't made up until the late 80s and spread in the early 90s by John Papadakis at USC. And the negligent sports media, it's a sports journalism failure, all fell for Papadakis's fairy tale, and Bryant got elevated to a status he doesn't deserve. And I wanted to make another point on that. Just that Showtime, ESPN, HBO, all these, the legend of that 1970 game didn't grow until 20 years after the game was played. And it's all because sports journalists did not do their homework. There is no evidence. Bryant never talked about it. McKay never talked about it. It was all made up in the late 80s and spread in the 90s.
So I guess if I'm understanding you correctly, you got no problem with Cignetti winning Coach of the Year.
I said it's the Coach of the Year award. Cignetti is the Coach of the Year award. I'm saying Houston Medical Center that sponsors it should be ashamed that they picked Bear Bryant when they have two guys who were true leaders in their own state, Bill Yeoman at the University of Houston and Hayden Fry at Southern Methodist.
I'm glad you clarified that. I just want to make sure some people might want to pick that up the first time they're able to do it. All right. Next one is right up your alley too, but we're all going to time, man, on this one. And we'll talk about Judge Wanda Stokes has dismissed a lawsuit against former MSU coach Mel Tucker with Brenda Tracy, an advocate for sexual assault survivors, sued Tucker in October of 2024. He was fired from MSU with cause after an investigation determined he harassed her during a 2022 phone call. Obviously, Tucker's lawyers filed a motion to have the case dismissed, and it was granted. So I guess the biggest question is, Tommy, and I'll go around the horn with this, is what are your thoughts about Mel Tucker? Now he's free from all these headaches, although who knows about his reputation, but is Michigan State on the hook for that money?
Well, that's
Tommy,
what
I'll start off with you.
That's what the remaining lawsuits are about.
And this will be your last topic. This is your last topic of the night. I'll let you get going, but go ahead.
Mel Tucker is just an awful story on more levels than just this lawsuit because to his credit, he kind of started the transfer portal wars. Transfer portal, nobody knew how it was going to shake out when it first was opened up to players. But when Mel Tucker signed Kenneth Walker, and he had that tremendous year in 2021 that should have won the Heisman, that kind of showed other coaches that you could get dynamic players to jump to your program. The problem was Tucker, he kind of abandoned Michigan State's recruiting bases in Ohio and the state of Michigan, looking for four-star talents around the country. And he got some of them to come to the Michigan State, but none of them panned out. So that's why we've been suffering for all these years. And the other thing that really disappoints me about Mel Tucker is he understood what Duffy Daugherty did at Michigan State with not only black players, but black coaches, hiring Jimmy Ray. Duffy Daugherty hired Jimmy Ray and Sherman Lewis, who both have been honored by the Pro Football Hall of Fame for their careers as assistant coaches. And they mentored Tyrone Willingham as a Michigan State player who got into coaching. So Mel Tucker understood this because he, as a graduate assistant, he learned it when Nick Saban was the coach. But Nick Saban never told the public, never told our student body. We've never taken advantage of Duffy Daugherty's great leadership the way Alabama, and I'm sorry, Marvin, USC have with this fairy tale about the 1970 USC game. Michigan State doesn't understand its own story. And when when the Right Thing came out, I reached out to Mel's agent, hoping that he would write some kind of prologue for me. And he explained about how he learned from Nick Saban what Michigan State stood for, and that he wanted to teach his players and the campus about it. And then he was Icarus. He flew too close to the sun. He had that great 2021 season, and then the recruiting blew up on him. He wasn't getting they had too many holes in their roster, and then he got got involved with this woman, and the idiocy of the whole thing. It's bad enough that he sexually harassed her, but it probably would have never come to light, except she had spoken to the team during spring football about sexual harassment, and then she was scheduled to come back in the fall during fall camp to talk about sexual harassment, and that's when this incident between him and her happened. And so he canceled her appearance, which meant she lost money. So that's when she went public with it, with a lawsuit. If he'd have just honored that second commitment payday, none of this would have came out. But like I say, the program was going to fall apart anyways because his recruiting game plan wasn't going to work at Michigan State. But like I say, I've been trying to tell this story that no coach but has done more for college football integration than Duffy Daugherty. And I can't break through because of these myths about Bear Bryant. And I thought I finally had an ally with Mel Tucker, and everything blew up on him. I reached out to Jonathan Smith, and he didn't care anything about Michigan State's history. It's one of the reasons he didn't work out. Pat Fitzgerald, I know, is interested in learning. And I'm hoping, I sent him my books, and I got a nice thank you note from him. And so I'm hoping that this is going to lead to something bigger at Michigan State. And the people will understand who Duffy Daugherty is.
So my question to you, though. And I'm really curious about it. Do you think that now that this case has been dismissed, that Michigan State's on hook for $80 million?
Well, we'll have to see where
now all of a sudden you fire a guy where the case.
We'll have to see where it goes in the court.
And then the question is he hireable?
Oh, no, of course not.
Okay, well, go ahead, Tony. You put your hands together. I was just curious to get your perspective on this because when I saw Mel Tucker out, it had your name written all over it. I knew that Duffy Daugherty was going to make his way into the conversation as well as the other stuff, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Johnny Manziel.
Go ahead, Tony. What's yours?
I need my money. I got fired for something that just got dismissed in the courts. And I get, okay, maybe, they put stuff in contracts, right? That can kind of get you out of those deals. Conduct detrimental. Okay, I might not be able to get my job back, but I got fired without cause. So I need my paper. All right, I need my 80 mil. I need every dime. And we need to figure out how y'all want to do this. All up front, or we're gonna do payments because they just proved that y'all fired me for a reason that was not just. It is interesting, though. Maybe Michigan State have done their own investigation because that's something also that has to be, we got to be real with. What happens in the court of law isn't always just and isn't always fair. So maybe Michigan State can, they've done their own investigation to see that maybe he was in the wrong. But, yeah, I want my money. That's the first thing I'm asking for. As soon as I walk out of the courthouse, I'm talking to my agent, and we're heading to Michigan State to talk about this payday.
All right, Candy.
He says that they were motivated to empower the university to weaponize investigative procedures and terminate him for cause. The for cause designation meant the school was relieved of paying Tucker about $80 million remaining on the 10-year, $95 million contract he signed. Yes, I realize. Do you realize that MSU spent nearly $800,000 defending Mel Tucker? That sounds like an awful lot for a university to, but to each its own. Do I think he's going to get another job? Probably. It seems most of these coaches do, so I'll leave it at that.
All right, Marvin, you've heard a lot of it. You've been very quiet and absorbing. What do you take? What's your take out of the Mel Tucker situation?
Yeah, they absolutely are going to be on the hook for this money. There will be some type of settlement or something. But yeah, with the court throwing that out, the school had no grounds. So at this point, he knows he's about to get paid, which is good because he's going to be a tough guy to rehire. Will he get another job? Of course he will. It's America. We give second chances, okay? He won't be a head coach anywhere soon, but he'll be an assistant coach, a position coach, college, pro. Yeah, absolutely. So, I hate that he made the mistakes he made. I was rooting for that guy up in Michigan State. I was, but these things happen, man. The flesh is weak, and there you go.
All right, Tommy, I want to thank you for hanging out with us for most of the show. So why don't you let everybody know about the Shanahan Report and your books, and then we'll see you on Tuesday night with a lot more post-Super Bowl stuff as well as pertinent college information as well. Tommy, the floor is yours, the Shanahan Report, books, so forth. Go ahead, Thomas.
Sounds good. TomShanahan.report. You can buy my books there, Ray of Light, The Right Thing to Do, and a couple of children's books. My Twitter handle is Shanny4055, SHANNY 4055.
We enjoy Tommy coming on the Sports Exchange twice a month, and we'll see him next Tuesday night. Have a great weekend, Tommy. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Thank you for being with us.
All right, Tommy. Go see you.
All right, Tom. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Thanks, Tommy. All right, now there's down to four of us. 4 topics to go, and that's this. Super Bowl winning coach. Marvin and I talked about this earlier. A couple people are going to get a shot at it. So we'll talk about it again. Super Bowl winning coach Mike Martz threw his hat in the ring for the Brown job. Tom Monken got the job. Obviously, no greatest show on turf in Cleveland. What are your thoughts, Tony, about the fact that Mike Martz was even interested in the Cleveland job?
Man, I haven't heard Mike Martz's name since my Panthers beat them in double overtime in the playoffs in 2004. I don't know, man. Maybe he got the itch. He was shooting high, right? I mean, going just straight for a head coaching job after not coaching for at least a decade, right? I don't remember the last time he coached. So him just saying, "Hey, I'm ready to be a head coach again," I don't know. You start thinking. I'm not saying I'm owner, of course, but you start thinking that after a while, the game starts getting past some of these guys, right? And so I wonder how that interview would have went, how he would have been able to prove that he's caught up to the modern game after sitting out so long. But he probably does offer a pretty good perspective, seeing as he hasn't been in it. So he has a aerial view of what's been going on in the sport. As an offensive coordinator, I'm pretty sure he can probably cook up some stuff for Shador. So maybe bring him in as a consultant or, a special assistant.
Interesting point. Candy, some thoughts?
I mean, he has been out of the league for so long that I could see that, hey, I want to get a payday. I want to try my hat. What other team is going to – let's face it, going to the Browns, not a lot of people wanted that job, so throwing your hat in that ring, maybe he thought he had a better shot of it as opposed to trying to throw his hat in some of the other rings. For your information there, Tony, the last time he was in the NFL was with the Bears back in 2011. Now he was the head coach for the San Diego Fleet in 2019, but it's been a quick minute since he's been actually in the NFL. Do I think that would bode well for him? Absolutely not. In this league, they are hiring younger and younger coaches all along. So to try and go the opposite direction, Cleveland always does what they want to do, I guess, but I didn't see it as a real potential there.
Well, I thought it was an interesting thing. That's why Marvin and I talked about it extensively. Think about this. So you have Shador Sanders, and they haven't let Deshaun Watson go yet. And you have Dylan Gabriel. So whether it's Todd Monken or whether Martz or whoever they're going to bring in offensively, you still have Watson in the room, and they all know that's the worst trade on the planet in the history. But is there any way that Cleveland can get anything out of that and salvage any kind of winning out of that disaster? Marvin, I'll ask you that. Do you think they're going to be able to salvage anything out of Deshaun Watson at this point, whether it would have been Monken or whether it would have been Martz?
He's just a PR nightmare. That whole situation that he dealt with, the legal matter with the masseuses, I think it was just handled bad across the board. It was a bad look. Cleveland jumped out the gate just trying to get insta quarterback, for $200-300 million, whatever it was. And it was just a horrible trade. It was horrible. It seems like this guy isn't as committed. You never hear his name anymore, which says a lot. Shador is out there showing you flashes in the mix of chaos, and he's just becoming less relevant. I don't see he's owed so much money. I mean, who wants to take that on? Take on the PR nightmare, take on the money, coming off injury again. I mean, has he changed his life? I mean, he's too much. So no, the only team dumb enough to sign him would be the Jets. All right. So I expect him to be a New York Jet next year. I think it's gonna happen. That's what they do. That's what they do.
You'd like to see him with the New York Jets.
No, I would not. I would not. I'll take Shador. I don't want Deshaun Watson. I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Clemson, Houston. I think, I think they kind of played him a little bit in this situation, even though he put himself in a situation. But, he just don't seem like he got that fire. We need a dog. We need somebody who's ready to go out there and lead for real. So, yeah, the Jets would definitely sign Deshaun Watson. Watch.
There you go. So all of a sudden he needs a dog in the New York Jets, and now Frank. And then you're going to sit here and tell me my buddy Frank Reich is stuck with him? Oh, please don't put that on Frank. Come on. He deserves better than that. All right, two more things I want to talk about. But now that we're in the metropolitan New York area, we'll have a little fun with a game that took place recently. I'm not hardcore, but was it a game? The New York Knicks actually beat the Brooklyn Nets 120-66, the largest win in franchise history. A 54-point drubbing by the Knicks over the Nets. All right, Marvin, that what are your thoughts about what took place in the Big Apple between these two teams?
Listen, two different teams, man. Brooklyn just, they're one of the worst teams in the league. Obviously, they're playing with one of the best players, Michael Porter Jr. He's outstanding. But, they got a bunch of rookies. They're trying to find their way. Jordan Fernandez is coaching his butt off. But the New York Knicks got players. They got aspirations. They got real dogs over there. They have a team that's been there. You know what I'm saying? They had a serious playoff run. So, yeah, just two organizations going in the opposite direction. And even with that, the score was ridiculous. So no real excuse for that. But let's see what the Knicks do with it ultimately.
54 points, the highest win in franchise history. And guess what? The trade deadline is still tomorrow, February 5th. We'll see if Michael Porter remains with the Nets. What are your thoughts about that lopsided affair, Tony?
That was crazy.
The Big Apple.
But it was right on time for the Knicks. The Knicks was coming off a 5 or 6 game losing streak, and the medicine they needed was the Brooklyn Nets, because after they beat the crap out of the Nets, they ran off like 6 or 7 straight after that. So that's exactly what they needed. Like Marvin said, there's two teams in totally different directions, right? The Knicks are trying to make it to the finals. The Nets are probably going to try and trade Michael Porter Jr. because he's playing too good, and we're trying to get the number 1 draft pick. Hold off with those 25-point games and go do that somewhere else. We do not want that right now. So you're going to see that even more from the Brooklyn Nets going down the home stretch of the season. Be prepared to see players getting benched, G League players playing for the Nets. The Nets are the 3rd best professional basketball team in New York, behind the Knicks and the Liberty. So I'm not surprised at all.
Candy.
The Nets shot from the field a whopping 29%, compared to 57% for the Knicks. And then when you talk in 3-pointers, they shot 27% compared to the Knicks 50%. Anytime you have, when you can't hit the basket, you're not going to score, you're not going to win. Plain and simple. I don't care what kind of defense, what anything else, but if you can't shoot that ball into the basket, you're not going to win.
Well, it just shows you how far apart those two franchises are. 54 points in that one game and a lot further apart in the standings. That's for sure. It's an appropriate result for an appropriate two teams headed in two different directions for sure. Final topic of the night. Kansas City, obviously, their star tight end Travis Kelce confirmed that he will not, I repeat, will not retire after the team hired Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator. He says, I can't wait to see him back in the building. One of my favorite coaches of all time. It's going to be awesome to see him back in the building. Marvin, I'll tell you, nothing like a coach that you respect, that you get to see every day, that you can talk to whenever you need them, especially when you like them and respect them that much. And that's the case when you have Kelce toward Bieniemy.
Yeah, Bieniemy, this guy was he was the pit bull in KC. When he was first there, he was the guy that held these guys accountable, got guys in line. And now you have a new crop of players, and new receivers, new running backs over there, a new nucleus. I think Pat Mahomes and these guys realize that they got to get back to championship ways. And bringing a guy like Bieniemy in there is the first step toward that. So yeah, and then from there, I'm happy to see Kelce, coming back. That's a good thing, I think. And as long as Mahomes is healthy, they can go. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, Bieniemy's gonna make a difference. I believe that. Leaders like Kelce make a difference, and if he comes back, I believe that. But that's a one-man show. That the engine there is Pat Mahomes, and as long as he's healthy, they got an opportunity.
Tony,
glad to see Eric Bieniemy back. There's only one piece missing from this puzzle to get the band back together. And I know he's coming off injury. Come on, Tyreek Hill. Go on back home. Just one last hurrah. I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I like a feel-good story. Come on back home, Tyreek Hill. Get Eric Bieniemy back. They can be the team that turns it around instantly. I really feel like it. I feel like when you have Patrick Mahomes, you always have a chance to win. I think Eric Bieniemy brings some of that continuity. Him and Andy Reid clearly work well together. Clearly, Eric Bieniemy needed to stay in Kansas City. He tried his hardest to go elsewhere to be a coach somewhere. Kansas City was the place for him all along. And their defense is solid. If he can draw up schemes, some plays for them to score just a little bit more and when they were scoring, they don't have to score at the height of the Super Bowl era and the run of when Eric Bieniemy was there. But if they can get to 26, 28 points a game, right, that'll be good enough for them with their defense. And I think Eric Bieniemy can bring a little more creativity to that offense.
Candy.
I think bringing back Eric Bieniemy is going to be the heir apparent for Andy Reid. I think that allows him to bring back one of his guys that he really gelled with, who he really had success with, and then he can feel like he can ride off and he can retire with Eric taking over. That's my opinion. The fact that Travis feels so strongly about him to come back, because let's face it, Travis doesn't need to be there anymore. Travis has lots of money. He's marrying someone very famous. They have lots of money, but he still has that fire in his belly. He still wants to win. And I think them bringing Eric helps him because they were successful under him before. And he doesn't want to go out on a season like the season that they just had. So kudos to Kansas City for doing that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I mentioned it last night on Inside the Pigskin. We also, when Bruce Arians left the Buccaneers, how he had Todd Bowles take over. I could see the exact same thing happening. That when Andy Reid decides to step aside, that Eric Bieniemy becomes a head coach, a job that he is definitely ready for, and never got the opportunity. If there's a way for him to land his head coaching job as a referral with a guy well respected. Great show tonight for sure. We appreciate Tom Shanahan at the beginning. So with that said, as we get ready for tomorrow's programming, Marvin, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, you can reach me, Marvin Powder III. My social media handle is Marvin on the mic. You can catch me with the South Florida Tribune, 5 shows a week. You can catch me with Locked On USC twice a week.
Very good. Tony?
Yeah, you can find me Talking Game 1 on all social media, on YouTube, Tony Talking Game. I'm here Monday, Wednesdays, some Saturdays, a lot of Saturdays when baseball gets to rolling. Wednesdays, 3:30, I have Talking Game live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, 2 Raw for SmackDown. We covered the week that was in WWE.
And Tony joins us on Monday night's baseball show, obviously 186's Baseball Talk, Sports Exchange. And when we get going, he'll be on the Saturday baseball show as well. And we do that from time to time. Tony's always on there. He's become a very valuable part of the South Florida Tribune Media Network. Tony, you're unbelievable. And we're glad that you're on our team for sure. By all means, you've come a long way since you got in the program, but you seem to be settling in very nicely for sure. So all right, Candy, take us home the rest of the way.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed. Go get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. It's also available in audiobook format as well. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
All right, well, great show tonight. Glad to have Tommy. Glad to have Marvin. Glad to have Tony. Glad to have Candy. And I'm glad to be host. We appreciate all the participation in the chat room as well. Try to keep the topics real, both on the diamond, on the playing field as off the playing field as well. So we'll have our programming set up tomorrow. We're planning to do Sports Wrap early and fire up later. And then, of course, we'll have our Saturday Inside the Pigskin as we get ready for the Super Bowl as well as other major football storylines as well. So on behalf of my crew, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we'll see you tomorrow on the network. Take care, everybody. Have yourself a blessed evening and be careful and safe out there. And thanks again for joining us. Bye now.